Alright, Year 10, welcome back. We are doing exercise 5C, which is factorising trinomials. Now a trinomial, tri means 3, so a trinomial has 3 parts to it. So if you have a look up here, x squared plus 5x plus 2, that's an example of a trinomial. But before I begin, I'll give you a chance to copy down the notes. So as always, pause the video, copy down the notes, and I'll explain it all in a minute. Alrighty, good job guys. Now, like I said, a trinomial has 3 parts to it. Looks something like that. And the other thing there, it says monic. It just means that the coefficient of x squared is a 1. So these are the easier ones. We deal with hard ones later on when it's a non-monic. So there'll be a number in front of the x squared. But for now, they're all going to have just x squared. Alrighty, so I've said here in my notes, to factorise, what you need to do is find the factors of the third term. So there's the first, second, third term. Find the factors of that, and they're going to add together to give this middle term. So you have to always think about when we're doing the opposite of factorising, when we're doing expanding. You have to kind of work it out backwards to try and get this term. I'll explain exactly what I mean right now. So, we look at this example. We look at factors of 15. Now there's different methods to do it. Sometimes the textbook explain the crossover method and lots of different things. But I'm just going to write out the factors of 15. I've got 1 and 15, and 3 times 5 is 15. So they're my 2 factors. So I'd like to do this mentally in my head, because I know my times tables pretty well, and I find these easier just to do in my head. So what we need to do is find which combination of these factors is going to add together to give me my plus 8x. So if I add 1 and 15 together, I get 16. So that is not 8x. So that is not my right combination. I can cross that out. Let's try the other combination, 3 times 5. 3 plus 5 is 8. And that gives me my middle term, which is 8x. So when we start doing these problems, I have a particular way I do it. So I start off with x squared. Since it's x squared, I know that the first term in each bracket must be x and x. Because remember when we expand, we go x times x gives me my x squared. Now, next thing I do is I look at the third term. It's a positive. Because it's a positive there, when you multiply these last 2 terms, when you expand, if they're the same sign, so if they're both negatives or both positives, it's going to give you a positive number there. So I always look at that, and if it's positive, they're both the same sign. Now I go back to the middle term, and it's a plus, so I know that they're both going to be pluses. They both have to add together to give me that 8x. Now I look for the factors of 15, and over here I already did that, 3 and 5, so I can put in a 3 and a 5, and I've got my answer. So I'll go through that process again in a minute, but to check your answer, remember you expand the brackets. So remember that FOIL thing? So you go x times x is x squared. X times 5 is 5x, that gives me 5x, and 3 times x gives me 3x. So that's where we get that 8x from. 5x plus 3x gives me the 8x. And the last one is 3 times 5 is 15. And that's how I get the 15 at the end. So I can do that quickly in my head, and I know I've got the right answer. So you've checked your own work in a test if you had time to. Alright, I'll quickly go through. Actually, I'll just do the next question, and I'll explain it again. So, first step I do, look at the x squared. And I know that it's going to be an x and an x at the front of my brackets. Because x times x is going to give me the x squared. Then I look up here in the third term, it's a plus, which means both terms are going to be the same. So they're both going to be either positives or negatives. And I look at my middle term is a plus, so I know that they're both going to be pluses. So look at that, I've almost got the answer filled in already. Now all I have to do is look for factors of 5. And luckily there's only one pair, it's 1 and 5. So I can just put a 1 there and a 5 there, and we're done. And again, you can check your answers if you want. You can do it mentally, or you can actually work it out the long way like that, and you should get that answer. You notice we get 1 times x is 1x, and 5 times x is 5x, which gives us a 6x. So we know we're correct. Excellent. Let's move on to the next little bit. If the third term, as I've already talked about, is positive, we know that both signs are going to be the same. So either both positive or both negative. So in this case, we've got our middle term negative. So let's start from the start. We've got x squared, so I start with x and x. Next thing, I look at the sign there, it's positive, so I know both terms are the same. Both signs are the same. And it's minus in the middle, so I'm going to make them both minus. Because when you multiply this number by that number, 2 minuses make a plus. And now again, I think mentally in my head, this is what I'm thinking. 1 and 6, 1 times 6 is 6, or 2 times 3 is 6. Now I have to find out which combination of these two are going to add together to give me 5, or in this case, minus 5. But they're both negative numbers, so negative 1 and negative 6 gives me negative 7. That's not 5, but negative 2 and negative 3 are going to give me negative 5. So I know my combination is 2 and 3. So I can put a 2 in there and a 3 in there. And if you wanted to check your answer again, you can. So if you work out the middle bit, minus 2x is minus 2 times x is minus 2x. Minus 3 times x gives me the minus 3x. They add together to give minus 5x. And minus 2 times minus 3 is plus 6. So you know you've got the last bit. Let's move on. X squared, put down x and x. It's a plus, so I know the signs are the same and they're both negative. Factors of 30. I've got 1 and 30, I've got 2 and 15, I've got 3 and 10, and I've got 5 and 6. So, which one of these combinations are going to add together to give 11? And I can see here, 5 and 6 will give me 11. So one's minus 5 and one's minus 6. And that's the process. Once you practice, you'll get really good at it, and it's that easy. Let's do the next one down here. X squared, we put down x and x. It's a plus, so the signs are both the same. They're both negatives, because that's a negative. Factors of 25 are 1 and 25, which is not going to work, or 5 and 5. So we can put down the 5s in there. We've got the right answer, but what do you notice? This is called a perfect square. So you can simplify that as x minus 5 all squared. Good job, everyone. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's move on to this one. It's 2x squared. Now I said to you before, a non-monic is going to have a coefficient of 1 out in front of that. So what's the very first rule of factorizing? Look for a common factor. And we can see that 2 is a common factor. So I'm going to use those big square brackets, rewrite it x squared minus 5x minus 14. Now we ignore the 2 and we work this out like normal. Okay, and what you notice about this time, the last term is a negative. We haven't done one of these before. But when you remember the last 2 terms in the brackets, how are we going to end up with a negative number? One must be a plus and one must be a minus. So this is a new type of question. So we start from the start, x squared, so I can fill in x and x. The last term is negative, so one's a plus, one's a minus. And the factors of 14, I'll write them out. 1 and 14, 2 and 7, and that's it. Now this time it's a little bit different. We want our middle term to be minus 5x, minus 5, but you've got to remember one's a plus and one's a minus. So this time they don't add together to give 5x, they have to have the difference to be 5x. That makes sense. So I'm going to look, which one have a difference of 5? And I know it's 2 and 7. So one of these has to be a plus and one has to be a minus, and we want the middle term to be minus 5x. So I'm going to make the 7 a minus and the 2 a plus. So if I fill that in there, the 7's a minus and the 2's a plus. Then when I work out my middle term, here I've got plus 2x and here I've got minus 7x, which gives me the minus 5x. So you know you're correct with that. Alright, let's move on again. So do our 2 brackets. X squared, I put an x and an x. It's a plus, so they're both the same sign, they're both negatives. 16, I'm going to pick 4 and 4. And what do we call that? It's a perfect square. X minus 4 all squared. Let's do another one. It's a negative, just be careful. So 2 brackets, put x and x. It's a minus, so one's a plus, one's a minus. Factors of 5 are only 1 and 5, but we want the middle term to be minus 4x. So I'm going to make that a minus 5 and a plus 1. Because again, this will give me plus 1x and minus 5x, which gives me the minus 4x. So So if you're not sure, you can expand it out and check your answer. Let's do the last one down here. So we've got x and x, again, this is x squared. It's a negative, so one's a plus, one's a minus. Factors of 8, I'm going to go with 2 and 4. But I want the middle term to be plus 2x. So I'm going to make it a plus 4 and a minus 2, because that's going to end up with plus 2x. And that's it, we're done, we're factorised. And now if you have a look up here, we've got a couple of fractions. And all I said here was, what you need to do is factorise the top line and the bottom line if you can, and then you can cancel. You cannot cancel the x with the x there, because there are 3 terms on the top line. You cannot do that. So what you need to do is factorise first. So this takes a little bit of space, so I'm going to factorise the top line. Now that we're really good at factorising trinomials, we can do it quickly. X and x, it's a plus and a minus, and I'm going to pick 3 and 2, I'm going to make it negative 3 and plus 2, because that'll give me the negative 1x. And on the bottom line, it's just x plus 2. I'm going to put brackets around it. Why? Just so it looks the same as that. So now I can cancel the x plus 2 with the x plus 2. So now my answer is just x minus 3 over 1, which is just x minus 3. Job. And the last one, this is a super duper one. We just have to factorise all 4 sections of this and then cancel. So x squared minus 9. We don't have room to go down like 3 lines to work this out, so hopefully you can do this in your head by now. So that's DOPS, and it's x plus 3, x minus 3. Hopefully you can work that one out. Now the bottom line, 2 brackets, we go x and x, plus and a minus. Factors of 15, I'm going to go with 3 and 5, and I want it to be minus 2x. So it's going to be minus 5 plus 3. Good job. So in a test, you probably get 1 mark for that, 1 mark for that, 1 for that. I mean, there's a lot of marks here. Okay, next one. It's testing a lot of different concepts. X and x, it's a minus, so one's a plus, one's a minus. I'm going to go with minus 5 and plus 1, which will give me the minus 4x. And the bottom line, what's our first rule of factorising? Look for a common factor. So 2 brackets, x minus 3. So we've done all the hard work now, everyone. So now this is a fun bit. You get your red pen and you cross stuff out. You can cancel anything from the top with anything from the bottom that's identical. So we've got an x plus 3 with an x plus 3. I've got an x minus 3 here and an x minus 3 there. I've got an x minus 5 on the bottom and an x minus 5 on the top. So now all we've got left on the top is x plus 1, and all we've got left on the bottom is 2. And that's the answer, everyone. Well done. Yep. And here's your work, everyone. It's exercise 5C, 1 to 6 every second question, and question 8 you can do as well. Well done. Do your work, and I'll see you soon.